We are nowhere near the end of COVID-19.
Hospital outbreaks and 23 homeless shelters.
When are we done with this? The nation is chomping at the bit. Infections still adding up. At least 1.1 million in this country. More than 67,000 people have died.
Do we need a big study to figure out why we have this disparity, or is it staring us dead in the face?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Contrast Point. My name is Hasina Pira. I am your host. Today, we're going to be speaking with Rogelio Arcila. He is running for Atlanta City Council for District 4. I'm also going to be accompanied by the executive producer, Brandon Michon. Okay, let's get into it. So you are running as a socialist candidate. Can you describe kind of what you're running as and just a self-title?
So yeah, the race itself is nonpartisan. I know you can check off Republican, Democrat, but I know a lot of progressive candidates that I've just checked off nonpartisan. But if you ask me how I identify politically, I would say socialist. And I'm not hiding from that title. It is what I am.
So what is socialism to you? And define what socialism looks like in Atlanta if you were to hold office.
Okay. Socialism to me, just in one simple term, is love. That's what it is love. I'm going to the broader definition, but I would simply put it as love, loving one another. And so with that said, socialism is pretty much the way I view it is building a communal way of life rather than the capitalistic individualist culture that we are currently living under. It's meeting everyone's needs. It's like moving together to tear down systems of oppression and recreate them to have equality and equity. It's a complete change of culture. There's people like Ella Baker, mother of the civil rights movement, Bayard Rustin, Marsha Johnson, Fannie Lou Hamer. They've been building socialism in the South. It's a process and processes that take time. So we have to listen to marginalized groups that have been under threat and continue to survive with all the harm that has been done. And so it's a bit of what socialism to me looks like.
What are your ideas as a socialist inside and just philosophically adhering it and paying attention to intersectionality while going for kind of a position for policy change, for, umbrella kind of changes? Or do you feel that you're going to go into kind of targeting, different groups, such as like affirmative action sort of things? Or, do you really, is your head really wrapped around more overreaching policies?
So let's here's an example. Yesterday I was canvassing and I was knocking on doors and I had people that had lived there for decades. I had people that had just moved in. I had people that had been there 35 years. Those are all different types of people. And so I guess the overreaching policies. And so I would ask them what their concern was, and they would tell me. And in my policies, or solutions rather, I was able to modify or tailor it to them, but still maintain my principles. So I guess it's more overreaching is what I'm looking for, because I firmly do believe in order for any change to happen, the most oppressed must be up front and center. But being pragmatic in Atlanta, you also have to take care of those that are not facing oppression, because they are also a part of my district specifically. So we have a lot of people that are white that don't have to explain to their children, hey, this is what happens when you get pulled over by a cop. This is what you do. And so um, those people I also have to take care of. And so it's more of a, overall policy thing, but it's still, like I said, it's tailored to who I'm talking to, but maintaining socialist principles. Yes. I'm not sure that answered your question.
No, that's fine. Can we go deeper on your socialist principles? So
Yes, of course. I'd love to. What's up?
But yeah, let's go into your socialist principles.
I'm not much of a theory guy.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in poverty. I was born to an undocumented mother. I've seen adversity firsthand. So my socialist principles are, I'm a socialist because I want to go to the core root of issues that are plaguing the underemployed, the unhoused, that's booming. We're the highest rented district in Atlanta, so I saw evictions firsthand while I was cycling or driving. I'm trying to get to root causes that are affecting the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, people of color, which Black, Latinx, Asian, the debt-ridden youth, and so many more oppressed communities. And to go to the core root causes, to paraphrase Angela Davis, is what it means to be a radical. We have been treating systems in this district in the South for far too long, placing bandages or band-aids on things that need long-term solutions. And to be honest, it's not rocket science. If you get to the root causes of issues, we wouldn't have mass unemployment. We wouldn't have what people call tent cities. Here, what a city sees as, here's an example, as we have the water boys. They sell waters at the corners of the intersections of the interstates. The city sees them as a nuisance. Every time I see one, which is almost every time I get off the interstate, as a socialist, I'm wondering what led to that. Why is that 13-year-old on a corner selling water? What is the root cause? Why? And then I start to question myself, why aren't we addressing the lack of resources? There's obviously a lack of resources, which is why you have the water boys, or you have what's called tent cities. And this is what the city sees as a nuisance, because in Atlanta, you saw what they did discussing boulders under, was it 85? Mm-hmm. I also go back to tent city water boys, and I use it as examples because those are the most common ones you see. Who created those problems? The city did. Mm-hmm. And now they're embarrassed by them. Mm-hmm. So to be a socialist for me is to really address the lack of resources and uplift and empower the underserved and the working class communities. Because when they thrive, there's already people thriving. When they thrive, society as a whole thrives even more. And it goes away from being more individualistic to working together for a better society. But to do that in the confines of capitalism,
Let's go into that. Let's go into it, because it's not that it hasn't been done, right? There are socialist city council members,
oh yeah. Shama Sawant, I love her so much, and I've tried to get in touch with her. I like idolize her. Pioneer of taking on Amazon corporate, really bold on her stances. Shama Sawant is an idol of mine.
She's and that's another question of mine too. We're just past all these questions. Who are your idols and why? And I want to come back to that. I'm going to put a pin in that because what you just said about doing this in a capitalistic society, you're already going against the grain, right? I mean, you were already going against the grain with all the intersectional parts of your identity. We all know that. But now, we're adding another layer to that basic intersectionality of people in council. And so my other question that I had is, what are your thoughts on socialism being enacted while in a capitalistic hierarchical society? And how do you hope to refrain from compromise?
That's a good one.
It's not impossible, but it's going to come up, right? Do you have any preparation of what you would do, when something comes across your desk that's like,
I'm sticking to my principles. If there's a vote and I don't like it, I'm not going with it. If it's not true to the socialist principles, I'm not going with it. So to go to compromise, I mean, I'm not in office, so it's going to be difficult to answer that question right now. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think this applies to everyone. Sometimes it's good to say, I don't know. And I think we need to normalize that more often, because often I'll hear like somebody running for city council or your average politician ask a question, and they'll give you platitudes or some vague answer when they simply could just say, I don't know. And it's just like, okay, look more into that. But that is a good question in terms of compromise. Now, the reason I say it's difficult to answer because I haven't been like challenged on it, like in terms of like, there's this legislation going through, Rogelio, this with your district. Yeah, I haven't dealt with that yet, but I know I will be bold on my stances. And I know it won't just be me. I'm hoping allied councilmen get on board and we take some out that I think are longer, have overwhelmed their stay in city council. I won't name names, but there's a couple that need to be challenged, are being challenged. And I hope that the support for them is there. I know I've signed up for a couple of them to canvas to try to take some of their, the incumbents out. But yeah, it's like, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. If you go outside of Atlanta and you go to, I don't know, anywhere across the country, they're going to say, okay, you live in a blue dot in a blood red state, right? A lot of people outside of Georgia have this preconceived notion that we're a progressive city. Our city council, in my opinion, is not progressive. For the overall. Now, I'm not saying that's all of them. I'm just saying it is not what I would call a progressive city council. With that said, the word progressive has been almost slaughtered, to where people that aren't progressives call themselves progressives. But when I say progressive, I think you guys know what I mean.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about something that you will be able to talk about, that you've already spoken about, but you could elaborate on. So you've already been a vocal advocate against mass incarceration, police brutality, and ending the homeless crisis, right?
Yeah.
So how do you plan on affecting change on these when you do join council, if you do join council?
Mobilizing the constituents and getting, like I said, working with, I know there's allied city council members that are on board with ending some of these issues, like closing the jail ATO. There's city council members that are on board with it, and there are city council members that are not. One that is not is that I'm challenging. So there will be help from other city council members. I do think a little nudge to move them left will work. And I think they're waiting for that in a sense. But with mass incarceration, that's it's politics is just a tactic to the greater goal. You also need to mobilize your constituents and the people. And so there's this coalition behind closing the jails ATL. And my chairwoman is actually Marilyn Wynn. She started it. She's the director and founder of Women on the Rise. If you don't know who they are, look up Women on the Rise and look up Marilyn Wynn. She also took Ban the Box to Obama's desk, and helped me craft policies to tailor also include formerly incarcerated folks, because a lot of the time they shouldn't even be there. I mean, you look at the clause of what is it, the 13th Amendment? Slavery is illegal unless you break the law and whatnot. You are a slave. So we do have slavery in this country, and so like I said, it's going to take a mass movement, and I think this close the jail ATL is growing. But there's also, you have Pat Labat trying to buy it, the sheriff. And so with that said, that throws a wrench into it, but we just got to keep applying the pressure nonstop. Keep applying the pressure. And you've got people like Mary Norwood, Michael Julian Bond, I'll go ahead and call them out, trying to keep the jails open. And I was on a call, I think about a month ago, where Michael Julian Bond was speaking. I mean, these calls are, I'm not going to say what the calls are, but there's a lot of very powerful people in there. And Michael Julian Bond, when he spoke about the jails and whatnot, you could tell he was out of touch with the people. He was not, he wanted to keep the jail open. He got slaughtered the whole call. And he still acted like he didn't care. And it really spoke to me that this dude's out of touch with reality. And, shout out to Chevy, Alfred Brooks. He's challenging him at post 1. And so, like I said, we in order to get these things done, we need more people, more actual progressives running. And we need to actually get the youth to turn out, because that was something that the youth aren't engaged enough. When I was a youth, I didn't care about politics, but they need to understand this affects you, in many different ways. So it's going to be a lot of mobilization of people, because like I said, just politics is just one tactic to the greater goal.
Let's hone in on police brutality a little bit. I know you were at the protests and everything. Would you care to comment on your opinions about defunding the police?
Yeah. It's bloated. A question I often ask when people, I know I'm going to be challenged on this, on safety, is I was on a neighborhood call the other night, and I asked them, how many times have you called the police? And I ask this often, and I tweet it often. How many times have you called the police? They come and they only say, there's nothing you can do about it. I remember I was robbed $400 when I was 24 at a Subway. I called the cops immediately. I was scammed, filed a report, and I said, okay, what's next? And I don't know. No, I don't even think we filed a report. I think they should have said there's nothing we can do about it. Well, thank you. Thank you for nothing. So police brutality, we're talking about police brutality, and especially defunding the police. What I hate is the right has taken that and pretty much made it abolish the police. So when you see defund the police, people always think get rid of them completely. No, want to take away funds from them, because I believe they take around 30% plus of the Atlanta city budget. And we want to put it into actual social services, social goods, or help, address the lack of resources. Like a city that I'm looking up to now is Austin, Texas. They split that police department in half, the budget. And then what did they just recently do? Purchase, I think, a couple hotels, or one for, I think 3.4 million to house the unhoused. Austin did it. Why can't Atlanta do it? Is my question.
You know, it's so funny. Atlanta
And
used to have hotels for the homeless. And
where are they?
they are now, well, a lot of them are, they're either, I don't want to be wrong about this, but they're around Georgia State. I went to Georgia State, and so you heard a lot of history about the buildings, and
Yeah.
like one of the dorm buildings used to be a hotel, but there used to be a hotel where if you were homeless, you could stay there if you were working. And there was a, and we also, we've talked to Mad Housers. Do you know about Mad Housers?
I know Matt Hauser's. My MPU chair has done work with them. Yes, I know Matt Hauser's.
Yeah, so it's so crazy, I don't even know all of the ins and outs of why what exactly happened historically, but I do know that that's something that we have done before, and then it just stopped. And not only did it stop, but they just started closing down shelters. I mean,
Oh yeah,
and then with the boulders,
it's inhumane. It's disgusting. It's disgusting what it is. Because housing is a human right. We're living in the wealthiest country in the world. Housing is a human right, simply put. And that's why our campaign is very centered around we live and die by. Human rights are not politics. They're not. My constituents, if I'm elected, I listen to them. I take their orders. If they have a situation going on, we've got to deal with it. It's like, once again, human rights are not politics. These are human lives we're talking about. These are people on the streets at 38-degree weather, have nothing, have nowhere to go. It goes down to 20s, starts sleeting. Where do they go? Some of the underpasses on the highway are closed. Where do they go? Like, that is so messed up to think about, that they have nowhere to go, haven't eaten. You don't know their situation, and shout out to organizations like Umi Feeds. They have an event this Friday. Twice a month, they'll feed the unhoused. And past 3 ones I've been there, and it just, when I was having a bad day and I went, and it made my day wonderful. Just to know, we handed out 150 meals, and you'll see a line, and it's just like the greatest thing.
So is that something that you have in mind, introducing to council, or is it something that's in the works, or with you guys already, with everyone kind of defunding, taking, reallocating the funds from police and opening a hotel, or, is that where you're going to funnel it? What are your ideas about really making it all happen? Where would you allocate?
So House Bill 286, right? Is that the one? There's the one that that are controlling our budgets, where you can only take away 5%, right? Sure, let's take away their 5%. That's still millions. And so let's say what I would want to do is work within the APD. So let's say they want to hire, like right now, they want to hire 250 more officers. Pause. No. Do 100 officers, 50 traffic experts, 100 mental health counselors, behavior experts. So they're not all cops, but it's still within APD. You know what I mean? So there's work. I haven't read the entire language, but I'm assuming there's work, and I'm working with some people that are very involved with public safety and reallocating funds. But if we're only able to do 5%, then you work within those confines and figure out how can you. It's like a puzzle. It's how can you modify it so there's not so much of a police presence, because police brutality is a problem, And one problem that I really have, and it's one of my top issues, is police accountability. I mean, let me ask you a question. Does police accountability exist?
That's a question for me.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Police accountability does not exist. Look, the Derek Chauvin, whatever the hell his name is, was, I guess, was good, was fine. But that does not replace the loss of a life. It does not replace a human being. I've seen I stopped watching it. I stopped watching clips. I've seen disgusting videos and disgusting things that the police say. Uh, Police evolved from slave patrols, and it's very ingrained in white supremacy. If you look at what Los Angeles, I think they had a report about, like, I think this was like over the summer or recent, it was like months ago, but you had, within the department, you had to have killed someone to be in their gang. That is, cops are getting paid leave to kill people. Like, they've got a license to kill. So police brutality, like, people should not, like, especially the Black community. And this was brought up in my canvassing yesterday. I told someone who had a child, and their child went away. I made sure, but the child was tiny and probably couldn't understand what I was saying. I said, I'm gonna be straight up with you. When your child it becomes an adult, is driving age, are you going to have that talk with them about what to do when a cop pulls them over? They said yes. I said, is that right? They said no. That's a problem. Am I uncensored? Can I?
Sure.
That's fucked up. That is fucked up. That is beyond fucked up that the Black community has to do that. And that is something I always bring up, because it is something that I don't think we talk about enough. Because white people don't have to do it. And it's not just the Black community. It intersects with, like, the Latinx community as well. Here's an example. When I first learned to drive, right, often days I'll forget my wallet. I lose my wallet. You know, it happens. I'm a dude. I lose my wallet. It's stereotype is true. Yeah, we lose our wallets all the time. So, my mom, we're in Atlanta. We're in the city. Whenever I go out to Cobb or Gwinnett, she'd say, Rogelio, always take your ID. And at first I asked her why. I'm driving the speed limit. I'm not doing anything crazy. And she said, and now I'm realizing it, and I'm like, and it's happened recently, and I'll talk about it. She said, because if you get pulled over, there's 287G, which means they're ICE status. They could misidentify you as an undocumented person and take you into ICE custody. And I was 16. I didn't think it was that. I didn't know much about what ICE was or how crazy it was. Now, as a grown adult, I'm just like, and you can look up stories of, like, people that have been actually taken, like Latinx or other people that are they don't have their ID. They're caught in an area that has ICE detention center, and the cops are tough on them. And I think I read somewhere, like, somebody was held 3 weeks in an ICE detention center only to find out he was born in America. He's a citizen. What the fuck? So police accountability is non-existent, and it's, qualified immunity has to go. That has to go. And I wish there was some way we could take on their pensions, because that's when they're really be on their good behavior, and things like that, to really make sure there's no bad apples, as people, you cannot, so we do have a police brutality issue, and I understand violence is happening, but cops also perpetuate violence too, I've seen, I saw, I was leaving one night. I was driving by the Capitol late at night with my partner, and we were at a stoplight, and I'm looking at uh, this kid getting pulled over, and the cop is looking in his car, and guess where his hand is? On his gun. And I'm thinking, fuck. Um, all I could think is,
You're about to witness a murder.
is someone gonna die right now? Because his hand was on the gun, and I'm thinking, you could see the guy was like this on his steering wheel, and I'm thinking, why hand on the hip? What the hell is the reason for that? Oscar Kane, Ray Shard Brooks, rest in peace, rest in power to all of them. There's much more that Jamarian Robinson. What is it? 76 bullets? It was over 100 shots fired, 76 bullets in a young man. 76 bullets in a young man. And then I heard after he was like done, a cop went over. This is just what I heard. Shot him 6 more times, something like that. But regardless of that, 76 bullets in a young black man. Also, top 10 causes of death of young black men. I don't have the source in front of me. Cops are among, I think they rank 6. Like, we have a police brutality issue. It's really ingrained in white supremacy, and it affects, here goes the intersectionality. It affects the black community, affects the brown community, and in some cases, I'm sure it affects the Asian community, you know? So BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, all suffer at the hands of oppression. And police are part of the oppression, and they're just there to protect those in power. I mean, demilitarize them. We have to end the 1033 program, the hand-me-down. Saw on Instagram the other day, some police department showed off like almost like a tank. And I'm like, are we at war with our citizens? Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what? I've been at peaceful protests when a medic's on the sidewalk, and I witnessed it in front of me. Dude gets tackled by the cops, and we're all held back, and he gets arrested. And it was such a violent witness because he was literally in front of me. He was a medic, and we were on the sidewalk, like I said, during the day, peaceful. And he's just violently arrested. And I was shaken for like 2-3 days. I was like, and this was a white guy. So it's across the board that everyone's facing this police brutality issue, but it is ingrained in white supremacy. And like, I like to go up to the mountains a lot. I'm like, used to be hiker trash, but COVID kind of, a lot of parks closed. But I stay the speed limit because I'm freaked out. A cop's gonna pull me over and plant something on me or something like that, just because I'm a Latinx, a Latino, a Chicano. It freaks me out. Like, I used to have a Bernie magnet. I'd take it off and put it in my trunk because it's blood red outside of Atlanta, and to this day, yeah, it's the fact that I'm worried about that going up north is pretty disgusting and disturbing. And I think a lot of people need to wake up and see that. And I think a lot of our white allies need to understand that this is a serious problem. You ask any white person, are you going to have to talk to your child about what happens when they get pulled over? You're going to get a unanimous no. You ask any other community, they're going to have to say yes. Right. And it's systematic, and we have to change that.
Right. So basically, I mean, so you do want to allocate, I'm sorry to bring it all the way back. We went super, super philosophical and I love that.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure we got that clear kind of, I know you see the homeless crisis as a huge overreaching thing. What about education? What about COVID? Anything that you really haven't gotten to speak on that is part of your multi-pack of things you are trying to affect?
So APS, it's its own separate body. City council cannot touch APS. Two separate things. So I was toying around and I was like, how can my sister's an APS teacher, Atlanta Public School. So I would hear her yelling in the morning. She's a dual language teacher. Say uno, say dos. It was the cutest thing. And I'm like, you're so underpaid. And I'm like, I talked to her when she first started, and I'm trying to craft my policies. And I said, how can I help the education system without overreaching the boundary of it being a separate body? And so I'm thinking Atlanta relies we realize so much on development that the city seal might as well be a bulldozer, straight up. I mean, development is taking over. And so my sister said, a lot of my students, low income, don't have internet, or the bandwidth is so bad, a family of 4, 3 can't learn, 1 can because that's it. And I'm thinking municipal broadband. Municipal broadband. What is internet tied to? News, information, communication, telehealth, COVID vaccine appointments, education, and so at work, so many other things, job applications. It's tied to just about, we're in the tech era, So at this point, I feel internet is a human right. So I know Comcast will be coming after me, but I'll be coming after them, and I'll be mobilizing. And best believe with that policy, municipal broadband here's the benefits of it. You would get quality internet. It would create more jobs. It'd create a new income revenue stream for Atlanta. And this would fall all under a municipal enterprise. You can do this other things, but I'm specifically on it. It would, like I said, better customer service, because we all have our Comcast nightmare stories, Xfinity stories. You talk to someone and you get the go around, and it's just not working. We can put it on a sliding scale based on income. And it's just internet for all. It's a human right. I have a majority of my neighborhood doesn't have internet. And there's a lot of kids on my block. So during the day when I'd see my sister teaching, this is at Atlanta Public School System, they'd be outside, I don't know, playing around. They wouldn't be learning because they didn't have internet. So that's how I would help address education. And I'm still, it's still very early, but that I'm dead set on municipal broadband, because like I said, it's a human right, and everyone deserves. I go to Mexico and they've got hotspots everywhere. Like, we don't have that here. Yeah, I have like literally hotspots. Every few blocks there's a hotspot, and it's very well lit, and you can go at 11 at night and you'll see like teenagers hanging out, just people hanging out, having fun, using the hotspots, the Wi-Fi internet.
Provided by the local government?
Provided by the local government. I go to Mexico quite often to visit my family. Pre-COVID, I'd go almost every other month. And sometimes we'd sit down, take a break, and I'd connect to the hotspot. And it was because the data usage and all that, and it was high quality internet, and it worked. And so I'm thinking, why don't we have that here? designated hotspots, or so that's where I came up with, that's how I can help education, is with municipal broadband. I'm a big internet for all guy. And during a moratorium, it'd be a public utility, so it wouldn't be shut off.
Mm, mm.
You know what I mean?
I've never heard that. I myself have never heard this idea presented. So
You've never heard municipal broadband? Oh, there's some people, there's some cities. Oh man, there's one in Colorado. Look up municipal broadband when we go off, and you're gonna be like, Rogelio's not playing around.
it's an excellent. I mean, you're talking. I mean, when you're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, this seems like everyone else has it, and once again, the South is trudging behind. So yeah, I that's a wonderful idea. So what about anything about our opinions or anything about COVID-19? It's
Yes.
still going on. We've got vaccinations. People are still going out here taking their mask off, not assuming they're not spreading it because they can't get it anymore, right? We have a lot of mental gymnastics again. So yeah, opinions on that, and also any ideas that you probably have for helping this.
So, first of all, I don't know why PPE for all wasn't for free. I remember I spearheaded a winter drive with the Atlanta DSA, and I handed what I call PPE packs, and I handed a mask to someone that was unhoused, and he said he was very grateful, and what he said was, "This is the first time I wear a mask," and we're talking this is December, week of Christmas. Pandemic started February, March. He told me this is the first time I wear a mask. I'm thinking, holy shit, dude. He's unhoused. He looked very rough. So it looked like he'd been in the streets for a while. So I'm thinking he probably didn't have access to it. And then there's people that I know in my community that didn't have access to PPE. PPE during a global pandemic should, in the wealthiest country in the world, should be free. It should be handed out everywhere in public spaces. You want a box of masks? Here you go. You want some hand sanitizer? Here you go. Because it pays off in the long term, because people take care of each other. So that's how I feel about it. Also, there's so much skepticism around around the vaccine itself. I'm not gonna lie, there is. I know friends and family that are like, we're not sure which one to get. Yeah. So here's a problem I had with this country. And I guess you could specifically talk about Atlanta too. You turn on the TV behind me right there. If I turn on CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, Fox, they're going to be talking about Trump, Pelosi, Schumer, something like that. If I wait a few hours, turn it back on, they're going to be talking Don Lemon or whatever, and whatever. They're going to be talking about Schumer, Pelosi, Trump, whatever. My thinking is, why don't these major channels that everyone watches run these infomercials 4 or 5 times a day, a half hour, educating the public on the vaccine? I think as a country, we failed educating the public on the vaccine, because you had Fauci saying it'll be over a year. And then now it got crunched into literally, by 20, 30% less than that, 40, almost half the time. So now people, I understand why people are like, what is going on? But I'm learning about the vaccine through TikTok videos. Are you kidding me? I don't even have TikTok. Someone just sent me the link about a doctor that explained it, and I was like, oh, this is what's going in my body, RNAs or whatnot, and the second shot. And so I think as a country we failed on the mass. The distribution is there, but we have failed at mass educating people on what's going in their bodies, and why was it developed so quick? How was it developed so quick? We should transparency.
Well,
They
and
were,
every person of color, well, maybe not every person of color, but most Black people I know about the Tuskegee experiments, the syphilis, so, and we have a history of experimenting on people of color with
yeah, you're absolutely right. And
the disproportionate, and I get it. I really get it. And I myself, when the vaccine came out, I was like, it hasn't even been around long enough for me to know the long-term effects 10 years after someone has taken it. Right?
I mean, I was with my campaign man. Yes, I was with my campaign manager, and I said, we're gonna go get vaccinated. So we went together for our first dose. We got it. This is like the craziest. It's true, but it's some of the craziest stuff. It was kind of scary. You do your 15-minute wait, right? We did a Mercedes Benz. We sat down for 15 minutes. As soon as we sat down, the guy in front of us fainted. And my campaign manager looked at me and said, Ro, what the hell did we just put in our bodies? And that's where I was like, TikTok, like no transparency. And thank God he was okay. The National Guard came and attended him, a nurse did, and he ended up being fine. But that was a scary experience. We literally just got a vaccine, and as literally within 2-3 seconds of us sitting down, the guy right in front of us, passes out. That was like, I was like, I was in my head. I was like, stay calm, Rogelio, stay calm. You're gonna be okay. But also something that I don't hear enough of is two things. One is we do need mobile vaccination stations, but we need to figure out to work with people on their time. Because one might be at work for one shot, one might not. I think we need to commit as much as we can to getting to those underserved or those hidden communities and making sure they're all vaccinated, but educating them as well. Because I understand why they're skeptical, because the health system in history has not been in their favor, has not been in our favor. People of color, BIPOC. And so I do think vaccination stations are needed, but more PSAs about it. Because I think there might be one, maybe. We need more PSAs about it. Also, I cannot stress enough, the undocumented community does not know you can go to Mercedes and just go with all you need is a freaking email address and just go, or you can just register in person. The ICE will not detain you. You are safe. You are fine. But they don't tell us that. They don't tell them that. And I take that very problematic, because it's like, you want everyone to be mass vaccinated. Well, tell these people that they're not going to be detained by ICE. And this is true, that I've had friends say, my uncle wants to go, but he's scared that he's going to get arrested and detained if he goes. And I'm like, it's safe. It's okay. They can go. And he ended up getting vaccinated. But like, this is happening literally right now as we speak. The undocumented, I had someone message me the other day on Instagram, like, hey, where can undocumented people go to get their vaccine? I said, anywhere. Then go to Walgreens. Walgreens, you need like at least a passport, or like if you have a ID from the Mexican embassy or whatever embassy. Okay. But then I said, MBS, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you don't need shit. You just need an email and email address. Or the walk up, you might not even need that. You just go. There needs to be more PSAs about that, more awareness. I don't need people DMing me asking me. It should be on this TV with those infomercials that I wish they had, educating us on it is safe to go get your shot here. You don't, regardless of your citizenship status, it is safe. You will and that's a real problem here in the with the undocumented community. And I'm not talking just about brown people. I'm talking about, Islanders, Jamaican, Asians, that are also undocumented, that are worried about this. So it doesn't, it's not specific to the Latinx population, because a lot of people think when you say undocumented, they immediately think Mexican. Um, no, there's Guatemalans, Panamanians, Colombians, like I said, Jamaicans, Islanders, people from the Bahamas. There's freaking people from Ireland that are undocumented. There's people from all over the world that are undocumented here, Chinese, Japanese. So they need to like tell them all like it's safe to get your vaccine. You won't be detained by ICE. You won't be arrested. So you asked for my thoughts on COVID. I know that was a loaded answer. I apologize.
No, that was
But
really good. I love that you actually went more into undocumented, caring for the undocumented community, because somebody running for council needs to have that in the back of their mind that I don't know the ratio, but like I'm sure 1 out of every 10 people I pass in my area. I live in a very diverse community, and every time I've lived in a diverse community, I've known that there are either refugees around, or there's definitely some undocumented workers and just people, and the whole dehumanization of them all, and not really taking into accountability people that are living lives, paying taxes on what they buy. They are contributing to society, and the community, and the local community, and they deserve to be taken care of. So
they're human.
exactly. So that being in the back of your mind, is there anything that you can do that you see on city council that with taking undocumented people into consideration that you see yourself doing, or is that just something you're always going to have in the back of your head, always thinking about it?
No, I'm going to put that forefront and tell everyone, like let everyone know. As soon as I can hear something positive about something going towards the undocumented community, I'm going to say, hey, like PSA, I'm telling my fellow sitting council members, like, tell your neighborhood associations, tell everyone. And I'm about to actually get on my Facebook story or my Instagram story and tell everyone the undocumented community is safe to get their vaccines after this. Thank you for the reminder. I'm gonna tell them all, tell everyone, tell everyone, I'm gonna connect to AJC, tell them to just run something, tweet it from the Atlanta City Council account, put it on the Instagram, throw it to all the neighborhood associations, so all the MPUs, make it as broad as possible. Reach out to the Democratic Party, tell them to tell everyone, try to push it. And not only that, but you hear about like New York City and Los Angeles creating funds for the undocumented community because they suffered. They were out of work too. Maybe exploring something like that if they're still affected in November. Pushing something like that to take care of them, because, like you said, they contribute too, and they heavily contribute. People don't know, a lot of them, like most of them, pay taxes, but how many benefits are they getting?
They didn't get
Zero.
the stimulus, that's for sure.
They're not getting a single thing. And it's from being having family members in that situation, I see it firsthand. And it's something that we can't keep ignoring. We cannot keep ignoring our mixed status. I'm starting to use that word more, mixed status, instead of undocumented. The other day I was calling a donor, and she said, oh, I can't donate because I'm an alien. And I said, ma'am, I am politely asking you to never use that term again. You are a human. You are a mixed status. Do not ever say you're an alien again. And she actually thanked me and said, thank you. The fact that she said that, I was just like, I can't believe I just heard that from someone that is of mixed status. But that's, I don't know why. Yeah, we need to get rid of that. That's yeah.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask this question as a closer, but instead I'm going to ask this now. And then after this, I'm going to invite Brandon to just ask you any questions he's had while hearing our conversation, and just anything he had from before, if you still have time.
Yeah, I said, yeah, I've got time.
So my last question I have for you is, what was the moment that got you really going, I'm gonna run? I'm a regular old Joe Schmo. I believe in change. And then the click to I'm gonna run. Was it people in your circle? Were you surrounded by just people that were recommending you? You know, was it people you knew? Was it a certain strategy, or what was your strategy? And what was that spark? What was that moment? And how can people like me, educated people all over that have brains and have good ideas like you, step into positions of power?
Okay, so I'll give a quick story. I decided I knew I was going to run one day the minute I heard Trump say that Mexicans are rapists and murderers. I said, I'm going to screw that guy. I'm going to run for office one day. That was in 2016. The defining moment was during the pandemic. I volunteered at a food bank. I managed it. It's called Food for Life. It used to be Food Not Bombs. I was like, I managed it every Thursdays, and on my off days, I'd pack and deliver. And my mom would often come help. And so one day we had a beautiful box of produce: eggplant, squash, kale, corn, carrots. It was like the rainbow. And I was like, I'm delivering food to people. And I'd always choose my district or my part of town because I could go home afterwards. And it was when we delivered and I presented them food. We had shelf stable and we had fresh produce box. Handed the food, kept social distance, knocked on the door, the whole social distancing. And then they said, "Oh, Food for Life, thank you." And then they said, "But we can't accept that box. It was the produce." And I'm thinking, why not? Like, this is some bomb ass produce. And they said, "We don't have a stove." That was probably what pushed me over the top. Or like, that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess people could say. And I said, I saw the conditions they were growing up, and they were very similar to mine. And growing up, and I said, they're not receiving any help. They're literally relying on this food bank. And at the food bank, I'd realize sometimes we deliver stovetops, microwaves. We'd have families that have 5 kids. We'd give them so much food, but 5 mouths to feed. The amount of food we'd give them a lot, would probably last 3 days, 4 days max, if that. And it's that what it was like, kind of a game changer. Food is a human right. Food security is a human right. And a culmination of that, and also the being very involved with the BLM movement, with grassroots organizing and that, seeing firsthand, like, doing nothing and just tear gas, like that shit hurts. Like, it's not fun. Having friends that had rubber bullets like on their faces, like shot at, it just all built up, all into that one moment where I saw the poverty. According to the Atlanta Wealth Building Initiative, if you're born into poverty in Atlanta, there's a 4% chance you leave. A 4% chance you leave. Also, people don't know, Atlanta is number 1 in the country in income inequality, in income inequity. Number 1. How did it get so bad? Leaders in office. They allowed it. All of that, and just hit me in that one moment. And I went on a run that night, and I told my girlfriend, it was in July, I'm running for office. And then I looked at the qualifications. I didn't get my master's degree. I have 60 grand in debt. I did 2 years of what's it called? Liberal arts. And then I went into business school. So my first language was Espanol. My grammar is awful. So when I read the qualifications, I thought, what the hell am I reading? I don't understand this. Because the jargon, I think, is on purpose sometimes. And that's why on our website, if you read the policies, we all went through it, everyone. We have a blurb saying, what does this mean? We explain it in plain language. Because I myself, I'm proud to say my policies were crafted by women of color, Black women, and a non-binary. I am so proud to say that. And they're experts in their field, like super experts. Like, I'm not gonna lie, my housing platform is bomb as hell. It is so bomb. I'm so proud of it. And I can say a Black woman expert in her field helped me write it and thoroughly broke it down for me and helped me understand it. And it was all socialist principles. It all stuck to the messaging of the campaign. And so with that, I'm sorry, could you repeat your answer? Because I kind of got really like, with a defining moment. And so, yeah, it was around July. I said, I'm running. And then it started to build up. And then I started to like call people that ran in 2017. Only one person took my call. And he's running again. We have kind of like a no attack pack, but it was in October when we had that conversation, and I said, yeah, I'm thinking about running. And so it was that defining moment where that person didn't have a stove, and I looked more into how bad the poverty is, and I said, this is just two people in a district of 40,000. I know this is happening to thousands of others, and displacement is happening. Our infrastructure is crippling. In fact, I was telling my comms director, there's a 50% chance if it rains tonight, I'm not going to be able, this is going to be over the phone because I'm not going to have internet. I cannot tell you the amount of times our lights flicker. Everyone, I canvass and bring it up, and it's a unanimous, yeah, our lights flicker during small rain. But yeah, it was that moment where I was like, but it wasn't just that moment. It was everything I just said that culminated, just all went into one and just hit me and said, we have elections coming up. We're going through the largest civil rights movement, I think, in history. We have police brutality that is just, everyone has a phone. It's just every day there's a hashtag. It's disgusting. All of that piled into one, and I said, I'm running for city council. And so I'm also the first Latino in history to run for city council. Considering where my mom came from, how she faced a system that was meant for her to like not escape from. Now our son's running for city council, is the youngest in the citywide race, and we are viable. I mean, we were out canvassing. We had shout out to Atlanta DSA. Had about almost 30 people out there. Every door I knocked on, the 5 people that came out talked to me. It ended up being like a couple hours, but we were engaged in conversation. All of them said yes, 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 yes. And that's where I think I was telling y'all earlier, this is real life. This is really happening. So I had to run for something endorse me. And I had to talk to my regional coordinator. And I said, I need to talk to you because I'm overwhelmed in a good way. Fundraising is like doing almost too well. I'm getting people committing votes to me. What the hell's going on? Yeah. It's one of those.
I mean, where did that happen? So
the what?
So you got him. So you taught. I think we skipped something, right? So you contacted someone from 2017.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And
well, reaching out just to see hey, how did it go? Just to try to talk only two candidates talked to me. One is my neighborhood planning unit. We have these MPUs. One is the chair, and they kind of, I wish people were more engaged with them. They bridge the neighborhood associations from the city. The MPU is in the middle. They're the middleman. The chair lives 2-minute walk from me. We had like a 3-4 hour coffee. He told me about his run in 2017. Somebody that's running again was very polite, and he's a cool guy. Told me about his run, and then he hit me with I'm running again, and I was like, damn. And then now I have to give a shout out to the team. Without my campaign team, I would not be in this position. They have kept me sane, and they have taken a lot off my plate. And shout out to my campaign manager, Jasmine. Jasmine, I fucking love you. There are times I'm freaking out 11 at night, and Jasmine just calms me down. Shout out to my comms director, Ted. Jasmine's from this district. She actually has her own organization that unionizes sex workers. She's getting grants. She's killing it. She
Did
just
you
got
cherry pick this team?
huh?
Did you cherry pick this team? Is this something you put together, or is this it just kind of snowballed? People were like, "I'm with you. Let's do this."
Oh, well, my campaign manager, I met I just on Instagram. It said in her bio, 4th district organizer. So I talked to her, and she was like, "Yeah, I can talk to you Thursday of next week." It was like on a Monday, and I was like, "Damn, I gotta wait a week and a half." Okay, I waited. Thursday, as soon as it was like 6 or whatever, I hit her up. And then after talking to her and talking to someone on my team, I was like, "Yo, this is my campaign manager right here."
Oh, wow.
So I told her. And then Ted came on recently. So Jasmine, I love you. Jasmine, Proper Women's Union. Shout out to her. Like I said, she just got a grant from Emory. She's crushing it. She, trying to unionize sex workers that's lovely. That's dope, because they also need protection. We need to decriminalize sex work.
Absolutely.
And then going back to Ted, my comms director, I will give him like a speech I write, and he will turn it into like some like pragmatic, not too radical, like revolutionary, beautiful work of, it's just art. Everything Ted writes is art. And so like I wish Jasmine and Ted were here. But yeah, Jasmine is just wonderful, and Ted is just uh like like I said, everything he writes is just, I read it and I'm just like, dude, this is the highest quality shit one could write. Like this is a real deal, man. Like I fucking love you, man.
Great.
And
So
then
you basically were like, "Can you be my campaign manager?" And she said yes. And now you have a team, basically. And now you're trying and you're canvassing and you're
we do have some super volunteers that help write policies, and like our shout out to our tech guy. Oh my God, he's also our photographer. He used to freelance back in the day, designed the website, set up the back end, set up everything, Google Suite, got the domains, did everything for us. You go to website, voterogelio.com. That's all him.
Aw.
Shout out to Ben. Shout out to Ben too. We cannot forget Ben, and also the other super volunteers involved on it's called it's the core team, and shout out to all of them. But I'm proud of the team, and I think everyone is now really amped up because of the responses from yesterday. We had a couple window signs up even. And I know I got a couple of donations from the district that day, yesterday. So I'm like, this is real life. And like I said, sticking to the socialist messaging, identify, I'm able to read body language. I ask them what they, what's going on. And then I'm able to stick to our principles, but also provide them with solutions. Because we always talk about issues, like I said earlier, but never solutions. And we're thinking about changing our issues button to solutions because that's what we're providing.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I want to wrap up your shout outs with, I know I said I put a pin in this. So right before Brandon comes on, idols, political idols. I know you're in the middle of talking about Kashama.
Shama Sawant, Corey Bush, the squad, Ilyan Omar, just like love her so much. Just yeah, just love that whole team. But that's at a higher level. At the local level, I'm not sure, but real heroes, people I really look up to right now, like real that I know. My partner from Pakistan, my sister, my little sister, and my mom. Those three. Those three I look up to the most. And they keep my ass in check. I am surrounded by 3 women of color every single day, and they keep me in check. And I look up to them. They're my heroes. I mean, I cannot tell you their resumes are ridiculous. And just what my sister's part of the 5% of Latinas that have their masters. She's in coding school. She's thinking about law school now. Like, just it's remarkable where we were when we were little to where we are now. Now on a house, like it's, it's nice to look back and reflect.
Yeah.
But I will say this with the campaign. Now everyone's super amped up because we're just getting positive responses from people, and people are actually open to our campaign.
That's good news.
It is, and I'm going to tell you right now, this campaign is viable. It's here to stay, and we're going to be on the ballot. We're not dropping out. Where fundraising is going well, the team is put together. We've got canvassers. We're building our field operation. It's here to stay. And if you go, might give a shout, go to voterogelio.com if you can, check it out. You can get involved. We've got a lot of options. Contribute if you want. Go to our Instagram, Vote Rogelio, our Twitter, Vote Rogelio, and our Facebook is facebook.com/vote for Rogelio. You'll see the great work we're doing. And it's just all like so surreal. Like I said, I'm the youngest candidate in the race, first Latino in history to run it for Atlanta City Council. I love it all.
Well, super happy for you. I hope nothing but the best for you in your endeavors. I'm not going to leave you just yet, but instead
Of course.
to invite our executive producer, Brandon Michon.
Brandon B, what up?
How's it going? See everyone. Everyone sees me.
What's up? Yeah, I see you.
Everyone see me. Everyone hear me.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again for your time. Like we're going on about an hour and a half now. I really appreciate you just taking this time and this.
It's been that long? Oh yeah. Wow.
See, time has flown by. So I'm gonna get right to it because, like I said, I do value your time. But before we get into questions and cleaning things up, I want to follow up and circle back, way back. When I first met you, you elaborated on a story about how you came to actually use your actual real name. For a long time beforehand, you were apparently using a kind of Americanized, something to make people
whitewashed
version of a name.
Oh, it's called what it is.
Tell us that story because that sounds like a self-empowerment story that people need.
So it got me a job during COVID, corporate, which sucked. I quit after 2 weeks. It was awful, but I remember it's one of my earliest memories as a child. My mom was a housekeeper for an affluent family, so we'd use their address to go to a better school. And so I remember I got off the bus. I was like 5 or 6. And I only knew Spanish. And my whole life, I realized it was Spanish at home, English in school, Spanish at home, English at school. It hit me as an adult that I was doing that.
Yeah.
And so I got off the bus and my mom says, hey, and keep in mind, I'm learning English. I didn't know English. I only knew Spanish. She said, hey, you're going by Roger now. And in my head, in my little 6-year-old mind or whatnot, I thought, I'm learning a new language and I'm now changing my name for it. Okay, let me go climb this tree. I didn't think anything of it. And it was something that Roger, just my whole life, Roger. And it wasn't until 2019 I did some serious, like, I don't know what it was, but something hit me and I can't put I can't think about it right now, but I thought, I'm not Roger. My name is Rogelio. My birth name was Rogelio. That's what I was given. Why am I going by Roger? If society can't accept it, then screw society. Screw them. If you don't like it, screw you. Not you personally, but you know what I mean. So in 2019, I said, I'm not Roger anymore. Roger does not exist. I am Rogelio. My name is Rogelio.
How did
And
that feel and how did that affect you as a person in your day to day?
it was one of the most liberating moments of my life. I felt like some chains came off or something. Because it was always in the back of my head, I'm Rogelio, but I present myself as Roger. I look in the mirror, sometimes I'd be like, I'm not Roger. Like, come on, look at me. Like, I'm a brown man. I'm not Roger. And so I'm Rogelio. And when I canvas or I'm in these neighborhood meetings with old Atlanta, they're like, or they'll say like, I'm probably gonna butcher your name. I know it's me. I'll go ahead and yell out Rogelio, and they're like, oh, okay, how do you say it? Rogelio? And now in my neighborhood meetings with people that have been here 50 years or 60 years, they say Rogelio. And it's awesome that they try. You know, if you're trying, I love it. I love that you're trying. And so now it's like from 2019 on, the whole DSA chapter, when I joined in 2020, they all know me as Rogelio. None of them know about Roger, which is the coolest freaking thing ever. That I have hundreds of people that know me as Rogelio, and I have a community that knows me as Rogelio. My, my campaign manager, Rogelio, my comms director, Rogelio, everybody knows me as Rogelio now. And I love it. It just puts a smile on my face when I'm able to introduce and say, hey, I'm Rogelio. And they're like, hey, Rogelio. And for my close ones, they'll call me Ro. Like my campaign manager calls me Ro, And even a canvasser or someone that I canvassed said, Rogelio, and then said, Ro, you got my vote. And I was like, oh, that's what's up. I was like, well, I'm gonna be coming back because I'm getting you an Uber, or you hopping in the back seat because I'm taking you to the poll. But it's awesome that people are adapting to it.
I love that story. It's such a it's self-empowerment and self-ownership, and I love that. And I also love that you use the term whitewashing, because I feel like that leads very naturally into my next question, which is less a question and more of a statement based on a op-ed that I like to read a portion of to you. And you touched on a lot of these things, but I also like to touch on it anyway, because we're in Atlanta, and to be in Atlanta and to be in politics in Atlanta means that you live in the shadow of Martin Luther King. There's no way around it. And that legacy, that identity has been one of the most sanitized, commercialized, and whitewashed identities. There's few and far between that have been more sanitized than that energy. And I feel like it's been necessarily whitewashed to make it safe and accessible for corporate interests and white identity. That's the major reason, but along many other reasons. So to touch on that and to kind of set you up to touch on that issue, I like to read a portion of the progressive left must embrace Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision of democratic socialism, an op-ed from Common Dreams. And it goes as such. Like most democratic socialist political visions, Kingian democratic socialism demands a radical structural redistribution of wealth and power. It centers the plight of the economic least of these, quote unquote, the poor, and the conditions of the working class, bringing a militant challenge to the greed-driven extreme materialism of a things-oriented fixation on capitalism. Kingian democratic socialism strives to build a new economy based on the realization of egalitarian, inclusive human well-being. It understands the organizing the poor and the working class and building a radical union movement to confront and overcome capital's power is central, but not exclusively so. A Kingian democratic socialist approach to class is inherently deeply intersectional, forged in an intimate struggle to dismantle the society-defining, brutally violent racial caste system of the original Jim Crow. Indeed, when King launched his last uncompleted project, the Poor People's Campaign, he declared its mission to challenge a set of triple evils: poverty and capitalist inequality, systemic racism, and militarist empire, which he saw as fundamentally interlinked. I'd like to get your thoughts on that quote that I butchered almost completely. And I'd also like to get your thoughts on how do you see yourself fitting within the ideological and intentional legacy of Martin Luther King and not the kind of sanitized and commercialized vision of Martin Luther King that begins and ends at I have a dream.
Let's start with the first thing you said. It's been almost made so to where everyone uses it, but there's one word you just said that they always exclude. Do you know what that word is?
Anti-materialist?
No, you repeated it multiple times in the beginning.
Well, I'm going to tap out. What was that word?
Socialist. They don't ever say that. It's been so watered down that they forget about, that they don't even want to, that's never mentioned. I think in my personal opinion, I think that's kind of evolved into complete socialism for me. The way I see it today, democratic socialism wants to have everything you just said on a more like within the confines of capitalism. So it's not reform, but it's changing things within the confines of capitalism. That's democratic socialism to me. Socialism to me is everything you just said. Tear the system down and rebuild it for everyone, for the most oppressed, uplift and empower them. Because in order for any change to happen, we have to listen to them because they know what's wrong with the system. They're uncomfortable with it for a reason. So that's an awesome quote, and I want you to email it to me because I want to analyze it a little more. And so going back to what you were saying on how I fit into that, what you just said was some real shit, man. It's the only way we're ever going to have address anything is by doing everything that you just said in that quote, you know, everything he addresses.
What was the three? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the three factors there at the end that he said.
The triple evils of poverty and capitalist inequality, systemic racism, and militarist empire.
Yeah, and those are the three things that I want to address: poverty, our police state, capitalism. disaster capitalism specifically, like predatory developers, corporate capitalism. Those are all the three things I'm trying to take on because they are literally destroying and tearing our communities apart. And they're putting us against each other almost in a way that it's like a race thing. And it's disgusting to see, which is why I'm so involved with, I try to be as involved with the community as possible, because get to know your neighbor. When I first moved in this neighborhood, I knocked on every damn door. I said, I'm Rogelio. I'm your neighbor. I live in that blue house, the yellow door. You need anything, you call me. Here's my number. Now, whenever power goes out during the day, we all go out and we shout at each other, yo, is your power out? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or whenever something happens that night, we text each other, or neighbor that next door be like, hey, I'm going to, out of this my area, I'm flying somewhere for 3 days. Can you look out for my house? Yeah. Hey, here's the spare key to my house in case anything happens. It's about community engagement. So I ask everyone, if you're displaced and you have to make the unethical decision of going into another neighborhood and you're seen as a gentrifier, get to know your community. Please get to know them. Get involved with help them out. Don't be a stranger. Don't be that person that doesn't wave back. Be responsive. Be a friend, because you don't know what else they would you don't know their background, and you don't know how helpful they can be to you. And when my girlfriend moved into Oakland City, you bet your ass I made her knock on every door. And I went with her. I said, this is Uzma, and I let her do it. And one day she left a letter on her front porch for her coworker to pick up. Her coworker picked it up as just a letter, folded up letter. As soon as Uzma came out to make sure it was gone, 3 neighbors went to her door and said, somebody just came and took something from your door. And I was like, Uzma, they're looking after you. You see that? It's because you talk to them. You say hello to them. You wave to them. It's about the power of the community, So all you that are moving in neighborhoods that, you're an outsider, make yourself an insider, please. That's all I ask. Get involved, get yourself out there. Trust me, the people that have lived here for 50, 60 years, they've done enough for the community. It's time for them to pass the torch, and they need help. Trust me, they need all hands on deck. In Atlanta, get in your neighborhood associations, most importantly, your NPU, neighborhood planning units. Get involved, especially the youth, especially people that are 35 and under. I don't see them enough, but get involved is all I ask. Please get to know your neighbor. And it's just like I said, socialism. It boils down to one thing: love.
All right. Speaking of socialism, let's go back to it, because you're not shying away from it, and I appreciate that. But it also makes me bet the question: how do you propose to be anti-capitalist in the capital of American inequality? And how do you see activists or activism playing a role in you enacting any kind of anti-capitalist or more humanist policies?
Holding, it's a great question. It's a hell of a question. It's not going to happen overnight. It's kind of like an incremental. I'm not an incrementalist, because look what disaster capitalism does. They don't do it incrementally. They just fucking come and take over. They did that in the coups in the 70s. They would put in, the dictators, Chiquita Banana, the United Fruit Company's example. And you saw what happened after Katrina. Everything is owned by private entities now. So it's gonna be an incremental process to implement anti-capitalist policies in there. Unfortunately, I wish I could just sweep away and be like, you know what, developers, go away, see ya, get the hell out of here. Um,
Is there a main target that you have? Just speaking into existence. So say you win, who's your Amazon?
Obviously, see if I can tax. Microsoft is in town. They're getting tax benefits. Fight that. But I'm pretty much going to declare war on developers. There's a neighbor across the street from me who lived in his childhood home in a neighborhood over in Oakland City for over 30 years. They built a house next to him. We have developers from Australia in this district. They built a house next to him. They remodeled it. They flipped it. 400,000. He's low income, medium. We're the second to lowest medium household income. Have been bottom 3, I believe, for decades. What happened to his property taxes? It skyrocketed. So he had to take that low ball $60,000-$70,000 offer. I'm declaring war on the developers because there's a lot of slumlords and developers that are sitting on thousands of and vacant properties, paying almost nothing in taxes. What does that fund? What do property taxes fund? Our education system. No wonder our schools are so underfunded. They immediately introduce something to create a formula to measure their property or lot and tax them at what that would be sold as. So our schools and our community are properly funded like we deserve. So the first thing I would do is wage war with developers.
And along those lines, I'm sure you were maybe got past you, but there was a story in Mother Jones maybe a few months ago where the developers were pretty much driving the police forces to arrest and hassle people in an apartment building, apartment complex in a community because they were looking to demolish that community so they can build high income units.
Gentrification is tied to policing.
Yeah, and developer-driven policing. So I'm glad that's a very worthy target.
That's my main target. I'm going bullseye. I'm going for that dart. I'm going for that bullseye.
So, and this is also something you touched on earlier with Hasina, but I want to just kind of elucidate it a little bit more. In my experience during the uprisings of last year, and even like I'll just share with you, I went out, obviously, while the pandemic was still raging during the runoffs, and was registering voters as part of a outreach team. And one thing I found was there was no lack of apathy within the voter base, and people were very blunt. It wasn't from nowhere. It wasn't something from a void. It was something that it was near and dear to them. They kind of wanted you to know where it was coming from. And one thing I heard a lot was that the election of Obama, when he was a hope and change candidate, when, for better or worse, people saw voting for a Black man as being a kind of radical change. Yeah. And nothing really changed.
No, he ended up being pretty much. I'm not gonna say anything about Obama.
It's a risky thing in Atlanta to do that.
I'm not gonna say anything about Obama.
Well, he was more of the same. He managed the empire the same as any other president would, and that led to a lot of apathy. I feel like that a lot of that is the reason why we ended up with Trump the first time around. And so I feel it's crucial that when people say that there's something, or when they say that they're the candidate of hope and change, or they say that they're candidate of socialism, that they kind of carry that flag, and if they don't follow through on what they say they are for either their intentions or just being, I guess, kind of forestalled by the forces around them, it can be a kind of apathy amplifying effect for the people who support it, either actively or passively. How do you, knowing the hurdles and obstacles that are coming at you, hope to invigorate and enliven your base, your voting base, your activist base, while also protecting them from any apathy that may come from this. You're going to be facing very powerful forces against you.
There's a movement growing. And as you see this campaign continue, look, what has the status quo done for 27 years right now?
Not much. Nothing.
We are the lowest voting district in Atlanta. I believe 12 to 15% people voted for their district rep in District 4. 85% were disenfranchised. 80% plus. That told me a lot. That told me, and from delivering in the district, that told me a lot. There's a reason these people don't care. We need to give them a reason to care. And you will see, as the campaign continues, some outside the box ideas where you're going to be like, this guy cares. And we should care about him. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Okay.
I got to keep that under wraps.
Okay.
But there's like I said, the status quo will not win this race, or will not beat the incumbent. You've got to think outside the box. You've got to be bold, and you've got to. I'm unrolling a couple policies that are going to be bold, and I think they're going to be game changers.
So it seems like you're keeping a few of your policies close, and I appreciate that, but I'm going to keep trying if you don't mind. So when listening to politicians, especially local politicians in Atlanta, one thing that always comes up is crime. Like, regardless of the venue, regardless of the outlet, crime will come up. And what I hear a lot of the politicians saying are things that try to address crime as if it comes from some kind of void. It just comes from kind of an abstract without actually trying to look at the roots of it all. And it seems like you actually are being very extremely conscious of the roots of crime. So I want to ask you, how do you plan to sell your idea, your ideology of harm reduction, which it seems like you are playing into that ideology of harm reduction as opposed to crime reduction? How do you plan to sell that on a population that is so prepped and primed to be so fearful of each other? Because you look at the nightly news and it's always death, murder, mayhem, first thing up.
Good question. And I actually dealt with that with a canvasser that said yes to me about the crime. And I said, ma'am, let me ask you something. If someone, let's say crime is going on, they break into your cars, system. If somebody has employment with actual livable wage, roof over their head, utilities accounted for, food on the table, is there an incentive to commit crime? No. We need a jobs program to help build the infrastructure in Atlanta. And I want to introduce that because it's going to take damn well over 5 years to repair Southwest Atlanta, and more specifically, the city. We're going through hyper-urbanization. Developers are also destroying our city because that disrupts the roads, the sidewalks. You can see some of the, if you go through some of the West End and go through some of the development, the areas that go through the development, you'll see they leave all their stuff on the side, hazard. They'll crack through the concrete just to build the driveway. So they're also adding to the crippling infrastructure. But going back to your question about crime, if we're able to get some kind of jobs program and push trade schools more and things like that, employment, in my opinion, is a solution to less crime. But not just employment that pays you a livable wage. You know what I mean? Here's an example. Plumbing. People don't know there's a plumbing shortage right now. One of my good friends owns one of the largest plumbing companies in the state. And you know what an entry-level plumber makes at his company? $60,000. Entry level. You know what his top plumber makes? $170,000. we were conditioned as a millennial to think that the trade schools like plumbing were bad. And it wasn't just us, it was a lot of blame goes to the parents saying, oh, that's a bad job, when indeed it's not. So it's going to be pushing for more employment is how I see solving crime, more employment. So they agree, disagree. I'm still going to be pushing for that and pushing for more mental health experts, more de-escalation experts. Instead of, you want to hire 250 cops, a certain X amount has to be this amount, X amount has to be this profession, this expert, and then the rest can be cops, sure. So I'll be pushing for that. So I will stay on my stances, but I think when I communicate them, people start to understand, hey, this guy has a point and he's not wrong. Yeah, I'm voting for you. And that actually happened. I had someone adjust a crime situation and I did talk them through everything I just said. And they said, those are good points you're bringing up. And one vote over.
And that I love that point because it just points back to what I feel is like the things that you are talking about, they aren't radical at all. Like you look at studies, you look at other nations that carry out similar policies and they work. But what we have right now is a kind of radical insanity, and there's nothing more radical than insanity. And insanity is doing the same thing and expecting something different. We've been doing this for at least the last, say, 70 years, living this the kind of social orientation, the kind of relation to capital that we are now. It's been what it is. And we've been doing the same dance, having more and more cops with tanks, having more and more money going to police forces and less opportunity, less and less investment in communities.
Yeah.
So I love so much that you're willing to look at things from a different, and some will say radically different perspective. I would say rationally different perspective, because there's nothing more radical, like I said, than the insanity of doing the same thing, expecting something different to happen.
It's not radical. It's not, but I will say I'm not the only one. There's some allies out there challenging some people that need to go. But people check out your district, check out who's running and read their platforms. And you will see there's a couple people that align with mine, addressing the root cause, the lack of resources type of efforts, So
Awesome.
there's some out there. I'm not the only one.
Awesome. I got 2 more questions and then we're gonna let you go. And once again, thank you for your time. Okay, so this question is kind of like a wild card just came to me out of the blue. But we talked about how Atlanta is the capital of inequality in the United States. But I also feel that Atlanta, in a lot of ways, I don't have numbers to back this up, but I feel like Atlanta is also, in a lot of ways, the capital of neoliberalism. And one of the hallmarks of that is the fact that we have so many, not just out of town, but international moneyed interests buying up our properties, especially in that kind of disaster capitalism mindset with Corona going on. And they're holding on to these properties, and the people who are here have nowhere to buy. Affordable housing is non-existent within the city. Like if you live here, you're lucky if you can actually live here, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right.
Do you have any plans to address the kind of outsider investment, or not even investment, because they're just holding these properties, not really doing anything with it?
I gotta stay quiet about that, and you gotta see in the coming months. You gotta see in the coming months.
All right.
We're rolling out some bold policies that are really gonna be declaring war on people that are exactly what you just said, that are gonna be addressing exactly what you just said. So I just gotta my lips gotta be sealed, because it's done a lot of research on it, and it's good. You're gonna like it.
Okay, I'll take it. Hey, last question. Ruth Wilson Gilmore, you gave your heroes, one of my heroes, one of the people that I look to in the kind of self-teaching that I do politically, because you don't get the kind of leftist thought that you get to become a, I guess, actionable and activated political actor from your high schooling or even your college education. But Ruth Wilson Gilmore, police abolitionist, activist, she has a quote that I love. I don't have a tattoo, but if I were to get one, this is in the running for it. And the quote goes, "Where life is precious, life is precious." I honestly cannot say that in the city of Atlanta, life is precious. Life is treated as precious. I
Steve.
know that in this city, profitability is precious. And maybe it just goes back to the things you said over and over again, but I'd like to, if you could indulge me, and lay out how would you make it so that life is dignified, health is cared for, communities are empowered, and life is indeed precious within the city.
Hold the powerful accountable. Hold the powerful accountable and give it back to the people. Make it precious for the people, because there's people suffering out there. There's displacement happening right now, literally right now. We gotta make life precious to them again. And so all I gotta say is holding the powerful accountable and showing that we can't elect a true progressive that will be bold on stances, a Latino Shama Sawant, you know. So you know what machismo is?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I once had a machismo dad, and he's out the picture. My uncles are all machismo, and I just remember thinking, I never want to be like that. I never want to be like that. It's disgusting. I never ever want to be like that. And I want to say this too. This is a wild theory of mine. I'm not a feminist. I can't be. I think it's a lived experience, but I am an ally. I am reaping from the patriarchy. As a man, I am. Therefore, I don't think I can be a feminist, but I can be an ally. But when it comes to women, especially women of color, Black women, I just shut the fuck up and listen, because we've got to listen to them more. That's all I gotta say. And I'm surrounded by 3 women of color every day. My girlfriend, my mom and sister. So I'm listening all day. And trust me, I'm learning too. I'm learning. I mean, my sister is smart. Every time I talk to her, I'm just like, I'm telling people, go talk to Jeannie, go talk to her. Like she will, like, she's too intelligent. She should be running. To be honest, she should be running. My campaign manager should be running. You know, but those are the people that I'm trying to empower and uplift. You know, so
I think that's
yeah.
a wonderful thing to end on right there. And I want to close out, if that's all right. I think that's a really good one to close on. And thank you so much for giving us your time and for talking through some really deep issues. And I really appreciate you being candid and honest about things you didn't know, but also things that you do know that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful trait that you're not trying to bullshit around things you don't know and run for a seat of power. And, you know, people say, don't show any weakness, don't show any weakness. And you clearly already are outside of the grain. You're outside of the box with a lot of things. But just this interview has let me know you're outside of the box with a lot more that people should really, I'm so glad I got to interview you. We got to interview you. You know, it was wonderful to have a conversation with someone that is, you know, trying to step up into a seat of power, and that I believe I really align with a lot of your core beliefs and a lot of things you say. And I also align with people that show their honesty right off the bat.
And I would say I'm a little more left than the platform shows, but you know, keep it at the platform, you know,
Right.
because otherwise I'm getting too outside the box and too. Then I just like I need to go run over in Europe, you know.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, my ideas would just be centrist ideas in Europe, you know, a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of socialistic, you know, ideas are definitely outside of this country. But with that, I wanted to close out. I wanted to say thank you so much, Rogelio, for speaking with us and joining Brandon and I for this conversation. Please don't hesitate to talk with us again if you've got anything else that you're trying to share. We will definitely put this on our YouTube, and I hope we get to have another chat with you.
Yeah, please share it with
me. You're
me.
elected. That would be great.
Please share it with me. And I just want to say, we're out here to kick some ass. That's all I'm saying. We're not scared. We're not scared of anything. And we're ready. And I'm excited. I'm overwhelmed and I'm excited. But thank y'all for having me. I'm honored. Thank y'all.
Call it the natural way. They call this freedom. Call it the only way. But you can't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. It's only freedom.